Hey, it's Emotionally Intelligent Living, Straight Talk with Steve. It's a Friday afternoon. Things are kind of shutting down for the week. I wanted to share something that happened today. I had a great meeting with some friends that I've worked with in the past that I'm looking forward to working with in the future. Larry Solomon and Dr. Tasha Clapperton, his daughter, who is a PhD in emotional intelligence and psychology. And I love what they're doing. I love what I'm doing, and I'm looking for ways to collaborate with them. In the conversation, though, it dawned on me that so much of what we take for granted, things that we know, like the different competencies of emotional intelligence and how our brains work and the psychology of things. None of that is really taught anywhere unless you specifically go to learn those things and do it yourself, like I've done in many ways, or get certifications as I have done and Dr. Tasha has done. But unless you do that, if you're a leader, if you're a salesperson, if you're a ministry leader or professional, if you don't specifically go to learn those things, you're just not going to get it anywhere. And there's so much noise right now. So I think what I want to do for the next several of these videos is to talk about the competencies of emotional intelligence in real world language so that we can really understand what it means. The foundation of all human skills, soft skills, emotional intelligence skills, and leadership skills, all of that is self-awareness. It has to start with self-awareness. Why? You can't fix what you can't see. And we all have blind spots. So that's why I use assessments in everything that I do to enhance someone's self-awareness. But let me break down what self-awareness is. It's the ability to understand your emotions, your triggers, your patterns, and those patterns can become habits over time as you strengthen those neural pathways. But it's also how you navigate the emotions of other people, and it's an awareness of how you show up for other people. So there's a lot that's involved with self-awareness. And that's why I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that today. It's critically important as the foundation for all of those different skill sets I just talked about, whether it's leadership skills, human skills, emotional intelligence skills, and frankly, the ability to leverage your higher thinking skills. If you're stuck in negative emotional cycles because you don't realize it, guess what happens? You can't think at a higher level because you're stuck in these negative or non-productive emotional cycles. So let me walk you through some basic concepts here of what self-awareness does in the real world. So let's say I'm a leader and my goal is to get my engagement levels up with my team. Well, if I'm not aware of how I'm showing up, not just for each of the individuals, but for the team as a whole, if I don't know that, I'm going to have a very difficult time changing what's happening because I don't see it. I'm not self-aware enough of how I'm showing up. Here, how about a salesperson? How would a salesperson leverage a skill like self-awareness? Well, you will bring whatever your emotional environment is right now, you're going to bring that into your sales meetings. So if you've had a bad day, if you're frustrated, scared, afraid, fearful, notice the fearful concept here just keeps going with different words, but maybe you're anxious, you have imposter syndrome, or you don't know what you're walking into, there's uncertainty. All of those things I'm saying, those words are emotion words. So what you are feeling, the emotional environment you're experiencing is going to carry into your sales meeting unless you reset the environment before you go into that meeting. How do I know that's true? Because we all have something called mirror neurons in our brains that actually kick in, and there are emotional radar, and people develop that very well. That's developed very early in life, where we pick up the emotions that other people are sending off in signals. So what about if you're in the ministry? What if you're trying to lead a church or a nonprofit or something like that? You're going to take on an emotional load, not just of your own. You're going to take that on from other people. If you don't know how to reduce that emotional load, this is why we have such high burnout rates with people in the ministry. And we even had to have higher suicide rates than the average of other professions. Pretty concerning stuff, right? So self-awareness really is the ability to do an emotional check-in. Know where you are right now. There's a term that I use called mindfulness, and I think it's very misunderstood. I think those of us in the boomer generation think of something like mindfulness as some new age thing. Actually, I think new age is old now, but anyway, that's a different issue for a different day. But it's not really that. Mindfulness is taking the time to stop, do a check-in with yourself, understand where your mind is right now, what's going on for you right now, and is there something that needs to change? Do you want to change or adapt or move in a different direction or get in a better emotional environment? And by the way, you do control those things. That's another part of self-awareness. There are two deeper skills underneath self-awareness to be aware of. One of those is emotional literacy. Can I identify and define the different emotions that I have, or the emotions that I pick up from other people? Well, there's a little practice that we call name it to tame it. So if you're fearful, if you're frustrated, if you're angry, if you can name the emotion, understand how it impacts you and maybe other people, and then make a choice to go in a different direction, that's emotional literacy, where you can understand not just what the emotion is, but how it impacts you and whether or not you want to change something, go a different direction, so to speak. The second deeper skill is called recognizing patterns. Now, I'm getting these definitions and these deeper skills from the 6 seconds model of emotional intelligence. 6 seconds is the largest community of emotional intelligence in the world. I think their LinkedIn page has almost 1 million people on it. And there are many, many people certified in their assessments and all of that, as I am. But the reason I share that with you, this recognizing patterns things, is so very important, because as a part of self-awareness, if we can recognize when we start down a certain pathway or pattern, then we have a much better chance of making a choice to either stay in that pattern or exit that pattern, depending on the outcome that we want. Some patterns are good. Some patterns are productive. Unfortunately, a lot of patterns are not productive or can be negative or harmful to ourselves or to others. What does that look like? Have you ever been in a conversation with someone where all of a sudden you stop and go, wait a minute, this is the same exact conversation I have with that person every time this topic comes up? That's a pattern. All right. A lot of times it's your spouse or significant other that you're having this conversation with. So, and there are lots of other kinds of patterns. So when something doesn't go your way and you get disappointed and frustrated and upset, do you choose pathways that don't serve you well. That would be a negative or a non-productive pattern. So for instance, some form of escapism, an addiction of some kind. And addictions aren't just drugs and alcohol. They could be many things. It could be binging television. It could be eating too much. It could be a variety of things. All of what I'm talking about is tied up in this competency of emotional intelligence that we call self-awareness. And it is the foundation that all of the other skills and competencies of emotional intelligence and those other skill sets that I talked about, it's the foundation of all of them. You need to have a good level of self-awareness to really be able to move beyond the stuff in your life that keeps you stuck. I see so many people that self-limit. They limit themselves. And most of that is due from a lack of understanding or a lack of skill to get out of emotional cycles and the outcomes of those emotional cycles that are not productive, that are not helpful. The more that we can develop these skills, the better chance we have of being able to navigate those well and moving beyond those. Another way to look at this, when you're going through your day and something happens that surprises you or disappoints you, or it's not good, right? It's not what you expected. We go into this trough, this low level, frustration, despair, disappointment, whatever those emotions are. Maybe it's anger, who knows? You know what this is called down here? It's called the valley of despair. Eventually, we start to accept and move back up to where we find hope and we move forward more productively. Here's the key, and I work with leaders and salespeople on this kind of concept all the time. The time that you spend in that valley of despair is directly correlated with your success and satisfaction in life. The longer that you stay down there in those valleys of despair when they happen, the less success and satisfaction you're going to have in your life. And it makes sense because you're down in those non-productive cycles of emotions. And it's hard to get out. You get stuck. So when you develop emotional intelligence competencies like self-awareness and you become aware of where you are, you can shorten the time frame that you spend in that valley of despair, which means you can become more productive more often and more quickly. Now, having those disappointments, having those emotions like disappointment, frustration, despair, whatever you want to call those emotions that you're down in that valley of despair, those are going to happen to all of us. That's normal. But staying in that valley of despair, how long you stay there is up to you. We know from science that the intensity of an emotion that is created in our brain lasts about 6 seconds and then starts to diminish. But if we choose to relive the event, replay the video in our mind over and over, every time that happens, it triggers that emotion again, which strengthens it and elongates that time that we're in the valley of despair. So your success and your satisfaction is very much tied to your self-awareness. The more you are aware of yourself and take away those blind spots, the better off you're going to be, the more successful and satisfied in life you can be if you want to be. Yes, it takes some work and some focus, but I wanted to start there because number one, it is the foundation of so many different human skills, or what some people call soft skills. But the reality of that is it's not that hard to increase your emotional intelligence competencies. It is probably one of the easiest areas to increase in your life. You're not going to change your IQ. You're not going to change your personality very much. It's going to be very similar to what it's been throughout your life. But when it comes to emotional intelligence, it's the easiest to learn, to grow in, to change for a better direction, if that's what you want. I hope this helps, and we'll pick up with self-regulation next time that we're together. Have a great weekend.